Hello, everyone. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to give everyone here, we got a couple people trickling in, so I'm just going to give it a minute here before we start on this webinar. Just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. We're very greatly appreciated to have you here for this live webinar for getting repairs done right this season on Thursday, December the 11th. So I'll just give it a couple of minutes here and then we'll kick it off here. All right. I think we are good to go here. Just as a reminder to everyone, this is recorded. So once we are done, if you've come in late and are missing certain parts, we will go ahead and email you afterwards and you'll have the video link to go through. But thank you very much for joining us here. As mentioned earlier, this is for getting repairs done right for this season. So let me kick it off here. I'm Leon Vilsick. I'm the services manager here at Hemlane. I'll be your host, and joining me today is James Field, and he is our RC manager, and he is going to be our co-host. So let me kick it off here with a little bit of an agenda so you guys know what topics we're going to go into. And so it's going to be structured as following. It's going to be our common repair questions. We're going to jump into some biggest repair issues over the holidays, three troubleshooting and quick tips, how and when to negotiate with contractors. Five is going to be our licensed versus unlicensed. And at the very end, we're going to open up the floor to any questions you guys may have for myself and for James here, and we'll go ahead and do our best to answer that. So let me here start it off with a little bit of a question for you guys. So with the chat function, please go ahead and respond here to me. But this is just testing a little bit of repair coordination knowledge for everyone here. So how many hours does the average landlord spend per year on coordinating maintenance? So I'm going to show on the next screen a couple options here. I want to see what everyone thinks. So we have the following options. We have 200 hours, B, 100 hours, and C, 40 hours. So if everyone can throw in some guesses, and then I'll go over the next slide what the actual answer is. Seeing a little bit of everything there, some B, C's, and A's. Yeah, so actually, the actual answer is 80 to 100 hours. So good job to those who got that one. So this actual statistic comes from owners or property managers who had 1 to 3 units, right? So in this case, it could be anywhere from 1, 2, or 3 units, and it's about 80 to 100 hours. Obviously, over time, if you have a bigger portfolio or you're having more houses that you have to manage, the hours will increase. But it's actually interesting. 80 to 100 hours doesn't seem like a lot to someone, right? That's 2 weeks worth of work. But when you think about it, some weeks are busier, some months are busier. You can have colder snaps, and then therefore it has to go up. But on average, it's about 80 to 100 hours for 1 to 3 units. And then I will jump it off here into some common repair questions people have, tenants, owners, and I'm just going to list off some answers here for everyone. So, what does repair coordination assist with? So I'm going to jump into here next slide, and this is some of the things that Hemlane does help coordinate with. So, request coordinated by Hemlane includes handiwork, so that could be any sort of handiwork, so general handyman stuff. We have interior plumbing, including stoppages. We have interior electric work. So light switch is not working. Maybe a room doesn't have power, breaker issues. That's something we assist with. And for HVAC, we have heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So we'll help out with any of those requests as well. Five, appliance repair. A lot of tenants are submitting requests currently for fridges, stoves, so forth. That's something we also assist with. We'll go ahead and dispatch pest control. I know this is a tricky one because a lot of landlords actually don't have pest control as something that they will have a responsibility for, and it's something a tenant is responsible for. But in the case it is a tenant responsibility or not a tenant's responsibility, we'll go ahead and dispatch that out. For seven, we have some mold remediation, so organic growth, right? Something on the carpet, maybe a spill left over on drywall. And then eight, routine maintenance. So these are all things Hemlane does assist with. For the next question is how fast can Hemlane get someone out? So In a typical setting, we like to say it's 24 to 48 hours guaranteed we get someone out there. Now, in the case of an emergency, so let's say something, hey, heating's not working, no hot water, we are going to rush it. We're going to prioritize that, and we'll have usually someone assigned within 6 to 12 hours in that case. Sometimes it's even faster once we get a call and we get a plumber out there. But in most cases for emergencies, we'll handle that within the day. We'll have someone assigned and out there on the day. Even on weekends, again, we have a 24/7 coordination team here. And then for most cases, we'll say 24 to 40 hours for something non-emergency. So for example, let's say a tenant, hey, I got some cabinets that aren't working and the hinges are falling off. We'll have someone assigned within 24 to 48 hours. And that bleeds into my next point here is what happens if the emergency is at night? As I mentioned earlier, we have a 24/7 team. Our phone lines are open, so there's going to be always someone to assist you. Weekends, holidays, 2 a.m. Hey, tenants submitting, I got an uncontrolled leak. We're on there. Our 24/7 line is open, so you can always call in. You can submit a request as well. And that also then goes into number four. Can I use my own vendor? Yes, you can. So you can send a repair directly to your vendor. So we have in our system, depending on if you're on the essential or complete package, regardless, you can assign your own vendors and we can reach out to them first before we actually send out the request. Let's say in this case for the complete package, the third party network. As long as that's notated on the property, or if you see the request come in, you're like, hey, I'd like to get my local handyman out for this one. This one's small. I don't want to touch the third party network. That's fine. We can definitely send that directly to your vendor. Just make sure to communicate that with us or put it on the actual maintenance notes for the property as well. Question five, how do I know if the job was actually done? Super easy. We will let you know when it's done. We will upload the invoice. And if the invoice is something we've paid, we'll notify you. You'll get a notification to your email or to your Hemlane account that a payment has been made. So before we close out any requests, we'll always make sure the tenant has confirmed completion. They're like, yeah, the issue has been resolved. We'll send you a direct message and I'll be like, hey, we've made payment. Tenant has confirmed completion. You can see it here. Let us know if you have any questions. So you'll always have completion photos, you'll have the invoice, and you'll have a notification from us on our team directly about the actual job being completed. Now, for number six, what's the most common question? How do tenants submit requests? So there's many ways. I'm going to talk about the most common since about 95% of the requests come in digitally, meaning through the actual online Hemlane platform, or in some cases for older tenants that are not comfortable with submitting online requests, they'll use our phone line call in and we'll go ahead and submit that. So, how do tenants submit this repair request? We now have a actual app live on the App Store, and it's Hemlane for Tenants. So, if your tenants prefer that instead of logging into the Hemlane website or calling in directly, this is now launched and live. So, you can go ahead and let your tenants know as well. They can download this. It's tenant repair coordination. And as shown in the screenshots here, you can submit the request. It'll go ahead and put the troubleshooting as well, just same steps and procedures as you do online is the same as the app here. And like I said, we also have the phone line, so there's many different ways to submit a repair request. So those are just some common questions here. And now we're going to move it over to James, and James is going to take over here for some biggest repair issues over the holidays.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leon. As you mentioned, my name is James. I'm the repair coordination manager at Hemlane. So we're going to go over some of the biggest repair issues that you'll see over the holidays. A lot of you may have already experienced these yourself, I'm sure, with some of your properties. So first and foremost, we have HVAC issues. These are going to be very common from October to December, but they are urgent. We make sure that we handle them very urgently. Our typical process is for most temperatures under 45 degrees, we treat them as emergencies, or 55 degrees with tenants that may be part of the vulnerable population. So those come up quite often, and we understand we want to handle those very quickly. Next, there are two plumbing concerns. One is frozen or burst piping. So these are pretty preventative, actually, in a lot of scenarios if you give the tenants the right tools. I remember we had about 3 years ago, I think it was in Houston, I know it was in Texas, but there was a big flash freeze, floods everywhere, frozen underground parking and everything like that, if you guys remember seeing that. But it was, so we worked all throughout Christmas to get the tenants' water restored, and we're absolutely happy to assist 24/7 with those items. The other one is clogged or overflowing drains. So this is obviously more common with tenants having guests over the holidays. You never know what's happening, what they're putting down, all these kids visiting and stuff like that. And so it does come up a little bit more. before. Something that is a question we get a lot is what does Hemlane do about tenant responsibility? Typically, in these scenarios, we will handle the emergencies or high priorities effectively, and then we'll discuss with the plumber. And if they say, hey, I pulled a toy out of the toilet, we will absolutely notify you, and you can choose to charge the tenant back if needed. We'll make sure we get all the information you need for that. So, we got your back there. The next three issues are looking at electrical work. Of course, tenants have new toy appliances over the holidays. They have a lot of people visiting, decorations, things that they're using more and more. And so this tends to overload the circuit a little bit. And so, again, we're going to go over troubleshooting next, but we really try to troubleshoot as much as possible so we don't have to send anyone out for tripped breakers. We have lockouts where we see with the freezing temperatures, locks typically can have issues depending on the lock, and garage door failures as well. And then finally, appliances. We know that these are not necessarily an emergency, but they're a large inconvenience for the tenant, and they can make or break experience, right? If they have a lot of guests coming over on the weekend and on Monday their oven breaks, we want to get this addressed quickly so that they're good to go for their company on the weekend. And that's our goal, making sure we don't break the bank on getting it done too quickly. Perfect. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about preventative maintenance. So there's a lot of things included that we can do to prevent it beforehand. Things like HVAC tune-ups, checking the seals on windows, leak inspections, actually reversing the ceiling fans in the home. I don't know if you guys know this, but in the summer, you want to typically have them flowing so that it pushes air upwards and circulates that way. In the winter, you want to have them flowing so that it pushes air down and pushes all that heat that rises down into the home to reduce the amount of electrical or heating bill that you need. Checking smoke detectors and sending out informative packets like our newsletter that we send to tenants as well to discuss. So, for example, if you know there's a freeze coming up and your properties are in Chicago, your building may not have the best insulation, send that notice to them. Let them know, hey, open up your cupboards, make sure the temperature is above 65 in the home, drip your faucets slowly to prevent any freezing. So, we can do a lot of these things that will not only extend the life of a lot of your major systems, but they will also prevent these last minute costly emergencies that come up. Now we're going to do a quick talk about the troubleshooting. Hemlane does a great job with troubleshooting. About 7% of our requests are solved through troubleshooting. But what I'll do is I'll show you this next slide. So basically, about 95% of our tenants submit requests through the online portal or with our new app that Leon mentioned, which has a lot of success so far. So we're excited about it. But you can see here, this is the troubleshooting the tenant went through. So they submitted an issue because their light fixture wasn't working. It asked them all the questions, tries to gather as much information as possible. And by the way, you can always review this too. So whenever a tenant submits a request, you can actually see what troubleshooting we asked, what they did, so that you have that visibility that you're looking for if you want it. Once we reviewed that, we get the request, we review the troubleshooting. You'll see that Leon, on the next slide here, actually reviewed it and asked additional questions. We noticed that the tenant didn't upload any photos, so we asked for some photos so that we can get a clear understanding. Basically, our goal is first and foremost, let's troubleshoot. Let's see if we can avoid sending out a professional. If we can't, we gather as much information that's needed so that we can prep the service pro so they know what to expect, they know what's happening going in, and they reduce the amount of multiple visits. We want one visit to take care of everything. That's a lot of the troubleshooting that we do. Yes, here's an example of some of the things we go over. For example, no heat. We make sure we check the batteries on the thermostats, check the breakers, filters, vents. A quick story, one time we had a tenant who submitted a request about the heat not working. And in discussing with them, I really felt like it was clearly a case of them not replacing the batteries in the thermostat. So they said they did. And so I wanted to triple check because it really made sense to me. So I had them send a photo of the batteries and they actually put the batteries in wrong. They flipped them. And so I just talked them through it, flip the batteries, good to go. We saved the owner $100+ service fee just to go out and flip 2 batteries. Those are the kind of things we do and the kind of questions that we ask just to always double check that the troubleshooting was done properly. Clogged drains, we like to use some home remedies like baking soda, vinegar, and boiling water. A lot of times with the smaller drain clogs, that can actually help resolve the issue without sending anyone out. Power losses, of course, we checked any GFCIs, breakers to make sure that those are reset. And appliances, we'll do the checks to make sure, is this an outlet issue? Is this an appliance issue? We also always gather the make and model info of the appliance so that we can check for warranties and again, make sure that as much as possible, whoever goes out is the correct person and they're set up for success. And then the final section I wanted to quickly go over is discussing pricing and kind of negotiating and things like that. First and foremost, we always verify pricing. So when an estimate comes in, we try to get a breakdown of labor and materials and verify, hey, with this kind of work in this area as well, because it does differ per area, is this a reasonable estimate for this type of work? We don't typically barter. However, we always do want to make sure that whatever estimate we're getting makes sense. So if I notice that I get an estimate that's about $100 more than the average, I'll inquire and say, hey, why is this more expensive? Is there something I'm not understanding that's being done here? And that typically, usually they may offer to reduce it or we can get a better understanding of the work that's involved. Any estimates over $500, we typically do recommend that you get a second opinion. The reason why 500 is the number is because anything under 500, it may not be valuable or worth it to get a second opinion. Now, it obviously depends the reasoning. Sometimes it might be, but a lot of times if you're trying to save $50 and it costs you $100 to get a second estimate, it's not going to be worth it. But we can absolutely make sure that we are gathering as much information as possible. And again, we're always happy to get a second estimate for you. Lastly, we utilize the amount of doors that we have, especially in our major cities. We have a lot of units in that area. And so we have built a lot of strong relationships with vendors. We're able to utilize that to get better pricing, and those vendors work really well with our system. So they're able to respond quickly, get out quickly, and they value our relationships, which in turn benefits them and you guys. Yeah, awesome. I will pass it over to Leon to go over some licensing.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about here licensed versus unlicensed vendors. So, for example, in certain states, as many of you guys know, state requirements will dictate that maybe, for example, a plumber needs to have a license, or maybe let's say handyman and so forth. So in this specific example, I'll talk about electrical and plumbing and HVAC. We make sure with our standards that every single person we dispatch based on the area is either licensed or unlicensed depending on the criteria for this. So in the case of electrical/plumbing work in HVAC, we'll do here California, for example, license required. Yes, it is required. So it's required by most states. So there's an insurance impact. We make sure to collect all of that information before we dispatch based off our third-party network. In the case of handyman repair, such as drywalls and doors, license required depends. Really, in this case, for example, let's choose Nebraska or Missouri, where a handyman isn't required to be licensed. So we'll often dispatch there unlicensed. For example, maybe in California or New York, depending on where you are, they'll require a license. So then we'll make sure that the people we're sending out there have that actual license. In this case, for landscaping cleaning, as many of you guys know, that's one that regardless of the state you're in, you do not require someone to be licensed in that case. So well, for routine recurring services, stuff like that, you don't really need anyone licensed. And let me switch over here to the next slide. Hemlane's policy, we match the right vendor type for each job. So license when required, insured always. We make sure we have all of this information before it's dispatched through our third-party network. I know some of you may have your own vendors. We don't have the information beforehand, but we can always follow up with your vendors if there needs to be a license or any sort of insurance things that need to be added to their file. Usually for most vendors, you already have that established relationship with your vendor. So you've already more than likely collected that, but if not the case, do let us know and we'll go ahead and assist you with that. So how can we help? We're committed to you. So we have a huge and great track record here where we have 100% resolved requests. We'll make sure everything is closed out as long as it's something that Hemlane coordinates, which I went over the first step. We'll make sure that it's resolved 100%. If it gets to the point where we're unable to assist, let's say, for example, If it goes into something where it's an insurance claim, we step out of those. But we'll make sure you have all the appropriate information you need before we have to step out. As mentioned as well, we work 7 days a week. Our team works 24/7. We always have the phone lines open for emergencies. We have our night crew as well that works out there, and they're all real humans assisting. So when you call, you're going to speak to someone from our team. Same on the weekend, you'll always have someone there to assist you. So our process, as I mentioned earlier, I'll just go over it real quickly, but we have a 24/7 repair coordination team. We'll make sure all the troubleshooting is done as much as we can beforehand. So troubleshooting will just save you time and money, right? That's going to save someone going out to flip a breaker, as James mentioned. And we're always transparent with our estimates and before and after photos. Before the request is closed, we'll let you know. We'll get the completion photos. We'll confirm tenants. So everything is done to the standard we hold ourselves to. So, local vetted professionals, as mentioned, we make sure all of our vendors are vetted. We have their licensing information, regardless of the actual category they're in. So, the whole point of all of this is that it's supposed to be hands-off experience for you. We keep you updated, not overwhelmed. We're there to assist you with it, and we'll let you know when important information is needed. So, when we're closing a request, or if we need your approval on something. So, you'll have that information, but we're not there to overwhelm you with a lot of phone calls, a lot of messages. We're there just to keep you updated. So, as just a little kind of tracking all the properties maintenance requests, I'm sure many of you here have used our Hemlane system, so you know how it looks like, but it streamlines the tenant maintenance and repair requests, right? So you'll get the alerts when you need it. Again, you could turn off your notification in your settings. So if you're like, hey, I really want that hands-off experience, I don't want to get pinged all the time, or I don't want to get, that's fine. You can let us know that. The beautiful thing about Hemlane too is that everything can be customized. So if you have a specific request and you're like, hey, you know what, I work out of state or I'm, let's say, working in Korea, so don't call me before these hours or don't send me a message during this time, so let us know. You can communicate that with us and we'll be able to make that experience much better for you. So we'll provide that communication effectively and professionally within those standards that you want it in. So some frequently asked questions here I'll go over. And then after this, we'll jump into a Q&A, so they'll have some time there for you guys to ask some questions. But some frequently asked questions we have a lot is how do tenants submit repair requests using Hemlane? So tenants can submit those repair requests through Hemlane's online portal. They can provide detailed descriptions, upload photos, and specify the urgency of the issue, ensuring that these repair requests are handled clear and actionable. As mentioned as well, we have an older clientele as well for tenants as well. So if they're uncomfortable with that, they can give our line at 415-417-1656, and they'll go through the extension option and they'll be directed to a live agent. Can landlords schedule and manage repair appointments through Hemlane? Yes, of course. Hemlane allows landlords to schedule and manage request appointments directly through the platform. They can set appointment times, confirm with contractors, and receive notifications of any changes. Again, this is directly to your preference. If you want a more hands-on experience and you want to coordinate instead of having us jump in, or if you want to set some preferences, of course, that's completely fine and you're able to do. Just let us know. It really depends on you. Some prefer to be more hands-on, some prefer to be more hands-off, but either way, our system allows you to do that. And our final question here is, can landlords and managers track the status of repair requests on Hemlane? Of course you can. Just as mentioned earlier, and I showed a little screen cap, when you log into your Hemlane portal, you can head over to the maintenance and repairs tab and you'll see all your active requests. You can also filter them for closed requests. And if you're signed up for the actual notifications, you'll get that email notification and it'll let you know. So the platform provides updates and progression through each request. We'll notify you when something important happens. So if we're like, hey, it's been completed, you'll get that direct message to yourself. So getting started, this is just a little quick tutorial. So requesting in the dashboard, in this case, I've logged into my profile here to show you. But what you're going to do here on the left-hand side, as you can see labeled 1, is your maintenance and repair tab. And then 2, if you want to submit yourself or the tenant wants to submit it, they're going to go ahead and click into the new request. And then they'll follow the steps. So as James mentioned, it'll go through some troubleshooting, updating the descriptions, and adding photos. And if that doesn't work, again, our phone lines are open 24/7, so they can go ahead and give a phone call in, and then we'll go ahead and create this for them. We'll also, in the case when a phone is called in, it does go through the troubleshooting steps with us directly rather than through the portal. And then again, we'll also collect photos and videos before dispatching. Other services, this is just a quick overview because repair coordination does tie in with so much other. Sometimes it's a vacant unit where you're like, hey, I need to get a tenant placed in. We have tenant placement services, the move out inspection, so getting a comprehensive condition report from a licensed inspector for rent ready, getting that property up to standard so you can have a tenant move in, and then full leasing. So the prices are there just as a kind of in case you didn't know. And then we'll finally move in here to some Q&A. And if you guys want to throw it into the chat, myself and James will answer when appropriate.
Perfect. I'm already seeing some great questions. Thank you, Leon, first and foremost. That was phenomenal. And I'm seeing some great questions here. One that came up was, where do you get the average repair cost from? Great question. So historically, we use it based on personal experience and expertise, as well as a Hemlane database that we have. But more recently as well, we've gone a bit more towards AI and utilizing that to get a much more accurate specific location estimate that will give us likely a bit of a better idea of the rough range of a repair. So it will give us a good direction there when we're assisting you. I also saw one that, what cities and states does Hemlane cover and operate in? Great question. So, in terms of Hemlane software and services, we cover all across the US, every city across the US, you name it. Alaska, we have some units in Florida, wherever, Hawaii. But the complete package does depend on the area. Sometimes, mainly, it's due to population, and we want to ensure that we can provide that high quality level of professionals for you if that's what you're looking for. So that would be checking in with your AE, your account executive there with that QR code, and you'll be able to ask those questions, confirm if your area is covered, and we can go from there. Yeah. Hopefully that answered your question. I added the number there as well for the repairs number, so I think everyone should be able to see that. Perfect. Okay, so I'm currently in a small community that does not offer the complete package to support vetted vendors. When I list my own vendors, will things flow the way under the full coordination services? Absolutely. So on the essential package, the main difference there is that you provide the vendors. There's obviously a couple additional benefits of the complete package that include the rental assistant and other tenant communications, tenant benefits, but very similar with repair coordination. You put in your preferences and we dispatch and handle requests based on your preferences. So typically you'll be able to add in your preferred pros and you'll say, hey, I like, for plumbing issues, I want this person to go first, this person second, maybe drains this person, leaks this person, whatever it is, we can generally follow those procedures so that you can still be hands off with some direction. And we can even pay your pros for you as well. As long as they accept our payment methods, there's no issue with that.
I think there's a good question for Don there. I'll jump in on that one, Don. So Hemlane does not have any on-site management staff. So we are completely remote. For the example of repair coordination, we have local vendors in the area, but Hemlane does not personally go out. So like in the case of James here, James is not going to go out to the actual property, but we have local vendors. And for that second part, great question, that kind of tackles into lock boxes and code boxes. So if it's remote access, we have our own lock boxes that we can go ahead and install for a price. If you have your own lockbox, in most cases, event owners will have their own lockboxes. As long as you have the key in there and you let us know the key code, we'll pass that on to the actual service professional. They'll be able to go ahead, enter in that code, pull it up, and unlock and get inside access.
Great question. Something else too that people have found the benefit from, absolutely, that ties into the leasing services as well. Would they utilize the remote lock boxes for tenant placement as well? Virtual tours are what everyone's doing nowadays. But if you do have a preference of having someone on the ground, we do have an agent connection, so we can always connect you with local agents that can help you do that as well. Yeah, great questions though. Perfect. Anything else? This is my favorite part of it. It's less stressful. I just get to answer questions about what's going on.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to go over, the webinar will be available afterwards. So just give us about 1 to 2 days for that webinar to be available. How much does it cost? Do you mean in terms of how much does our pricing for repair coordination cost? If so, it really depends on the units and which package you are. On that screen right here with the QR code, you can go ahead and it'll book you with one of our account executives and they'll walk you through. It really depends on annual pricing because you get a discount obviously with our repair coordination and our subscription services based on annual pricing rather than monthly. And again, it depends on unit cost as well. And if you're on the essential/complete, that's where we offer repair coordination. On the basic and free plans, we don't jump in and assist there. That's only on the essential and complete package. But again, go ahead and scan that QR code. It'll take you to an agent. They'll be able to answer your questions and you could go from there.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Otherwise, we shall be good for time here and we'll give everyone back their time. We greatly appreciate everyone showing up here. MLS?
So our marketing team, our leasing team absolutely assist with marketing. They will help you get any photos taken. Let me briefly explain the leasing process. Basically, we have an inspection done on your property. We determine are there any turnover items you want taken care of. Our rent ready team can assist with completing those turnover repairs. They will then take photos, get the unit cleaned, and your property listed. They will schedule and organize visits with prospective tenants, go through the verification process, and with your approval, get a tenant set up. They can do the whole from start to finish, if that answers your question. Perfect. Awesome. And there is some general pricing on the website, but it can differ. Right now, I think the complete package pricing is about 86 a month. That's about $28 base fee and $58 per unit. It's better to have a discussion with a direct account executive, better customize your needs.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're really great to have you here. And like I said, the webinar will be available for online for if you need to go through. Otherwise, please go ahead and scan in that QR code and we'll be there to help you out. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday here and take care.